Okay, so hello to everyone who's coming in live. My name is Maitreya, and I have the beautiful and amazing Annika Spalding with me tonight. And this is actually a pleasure for me to actually be sitting down with you.
Oh.
No, genuinely, I really respect your work. I really respect your drive and everything that you're doing and everything that you're inspiring other people to do. So I'll kind of give a general overview of what we're going to be talking about today, and then you can, I'll pass over to you where you can introduce yourself.
Okay.
But today we're going to be talking all about the power of a pen, or the power of the pen, and how we can use the pen or our writing abilities to begin to write out our experiences, and also use this as a source of healing or a self-healing modality.
Yeah.
And Annika, she's written a few books. How many books have you written?
6, but I've written 6. However, I unpublished the first 5.
Okay.
I had a purge. I thought, no, I need my writing to represent where I am now, but I'm nearly at the end of the 7th one.
Ooh, but that's in itself, that's an achievement.
Yeah.
Not many of us can say that we've made. So I really appreciate you for your gift and just for being able to share your wisdom and your knowledge with us today. But I'll let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit about who you are, what is it you do, what is it that inspired you to take this path of writing, and yeah, we'll kind of move forward after that.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Annika. Who am I? I am a woman's woman first and foremost, and that's obvious across everything that I do, and I'm massively motivated and inspired by women, the stuff that we go through, how we juggle everyday life, how we manage our emotions, how we don't manage our emotions. And it's very important to me to kind of use my own journey to illustrate this is what can be done, because really if we're to look on paper, that there's no reason really why I should be here doing any of this. You know, it could have been very easy for me to make different choices and gone down different paths, and so I kind of want to banish stereotypes and kind of want to show what can be done. And through writing has been amazing anyway, because I never used to be so chatty and so confident. I used to be shy. I used to have my head in a book all the time. But it's through writing that I really found my voice. And yeah, I mean, I've always written, I've always loved writing. I was the kid at school who would ask for extra English homework. Like, I was that kid. I was like Matilda / with Harriet the Spy. Like that was me. But I fell in love with reading first and stories and stuff, and it stemmed from there really. But I think because I wasn't very vocal and didn't share my emotions, how I'm feeling, what's going on, I always wrote it down at least. So I think I connected in that way. That's how I got my stuff out.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that as well, because I'm coming more from the artist background in terms of writing, and I wasn't able to write songs or do any type of spoken word before I turned 23, which is when I moved to Birmingham. And I found that that as soon as I learned how to be able to do that, and just because I started with just writing in my journal.
Okay.
But every time I found that I would write it, it would always come out in poetic ways. So I was like, okay, let me try and explore this. And that actually became a tool for me to express my own emotions. Only until I started writing my songs, I started even understanding how I felt. I didn't understand how I felt before that. So it's interesting you say just that transition of you being shy. I was very shy. I could not, talk about how I felt. I couldn't even talk with any type of confidence, and I'm still learning how to be confident now. But I had no voice. Like I felt like I didn't even have a message to share to the world, or no one would be able to hear, or who would listen to me, like who would listen to just ordinary old me. So,
then how did you get past that to where you were to where you are now? How did you get past that?
I literally took and I think this was 2014. That year I dedicated just to writing. And I was like, I'm gonna learn how to do spoken word just for the
Yeah.
purpose of learning how to understand my emotions and learning how to communicate it. Like, I wanted to learn how to speak, and I felt that spoken word was like the perfect avenue for me to learn how to express my feelings in a
Absolutely.
creative way that was non-judgmental. You know, it's just art, so no one can really pull that apart. You know, you
No.
just take the art in it. So I think that became like a really strong tool for me. And then when I realized I was talented at that, it was like, okay, well, I'm actually able to help other people in what I'm sharing. So it allows me to begin to share more.
Yes.
And put me to where I am now.
I love that. What a journey.
Yeah, so it's funny because the year after that, that's when I released my first EP. So I would have never been able to have done that had I not gone on that journey. And my EP was literally my story. One of the tracks on there is my story of sexual abuse. And it's only after I released my EP I was able to go to court and fight that. So writing is really, really powerful. You don't realize how much is suppressed until you actually put things down.
Absolutely.
Head. It's like a transference of energy.
Yes, and it's all connected. It's like you know, you may be someone who's never told anybody what happened when you were a child, but the fact that you engage in any kind of writing activity, it might be that you see a prompt on the internet, or you know, you listen to a song and think, I can create an epic idea for a music video in response to that song, whatever it is. And it's once we start that process, it unblocks something, especially when you come back to it maybe in a week or so and you're like, oh, actually that's actually pretty good, like you know. And it's taking those little baby steps. Some people, you know, will go on writing courses and do all that stuff, but sometimes the first step is about what you do in your own home. It could be like notes on your phone, how you start there and build up that confidence to start exploring new ideas and seeing where that leads you.
Did you ever have a point where because there's an experience that's actually really traumatic for me that actually made me initially have a negative relationship with writing and with journaling. And this was back in school, and I remember I used to write down a lot of my feelings, because again I was literally an emotional mute, and I would write everything down in my diary. But I remember one time in my science class, my teacher took my my book and he's like, why are you always writing? And then he actually exposed some of the stuff that was in the book, and there was stuff that was very deep. It was very it was stuff connected to, you know, like my suicidal tendencies. He may not have understood what was being written at the time, but these things were very real for me. And I remember that literally cut me off for a good number of years. And a lot of us, we've been exposed, especially when you're younger, you know, you have your secret little diary, but then often times you feel like your parents are going to find it, or someone's going to find it and read it. So how do you kind of deal with that anxiety of, you know, you being able to put your deepest and most vulnerable moments in a book that someone can potentially read? Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, I have two stories for you where I've been exposed, in a sense. So when I was probably about 15, I had a diary, I wrote in it, and you know, I was a typical teenager. I hate everybody. So we'd gone on holiday and my diary had come out in my bag in the minibus on the way home. I was just freaking out because it's full of my personal stuff. It's got my ideas in there, everything's in there. It's like, this diary is like my best friend at this point. And then my stepdad at the time, he read it. He took it to my mum and they read it. And my mum messaged me and was like, oh, I guess I know what you think about us. And I was just like, oh my God. They'd read the first page. The first page was like me ranting about everybody. So yeah, I just got better at hiding it. Then a few years later, when I was with my children's dad, I was just constantly writing, especially before I had the girls. Like I was just, there's this really good website called writing.com, and it's international, and people will just, you know, rate and review your work and give feedback and stuff. So I was just like constantly, I was obsessed. And then I started writing the story that is my first book, Shattered Dreams. And that story follows the journey of a woman who leaves an abusive relationship. So I was writing this story, and then he'd be reading it but questioning me about it. Why did you write this? As if me writing this character was a way of me me saying I'd done all this stuff. It didn't feel supportive, it felt quite negative. So I stopped writing, and I didn't start writing again until we'd broken up, and it was a good 6 months later then I felt ready. In terms of because a lot of what I write now, especially on blog, on social media, and in the book that I've nearly finished, is very, very personal. It's very, this is my story. And it's took me years to get to this point where I feel like I can say, yes, this was my experience, this is what happened to me, and not beat around the bush and be very like direct about it. And that's honestly come because I don't have any shame left. I'm not ashamed. I didn't realise how much shame was holding me back, because I felt like people would judge me, or someone had something negative to say, people wouldn't believe me because, you know, I seemed well put together or whatever. But actually I'd been through quite a lot of counselling, but the last round it shifted something. I must have just been ready for it, and have said things out loud that could have prompted a panic attack. You know, when you just start hyperventilating, but you've got to say the words. But then the words were out, and you know what happened? Nothing bad happened to me when I said those words. So then I thought, oh, okay then. We're ready to talk about this now. There is no shame, because there's nothing wrong with it. I didn't do any of that stuff that happened to me. I was a child, I was a vulnerable adult. The way that I see it and believe that if people have a problem with me sharing my experiences, then you should have acted in a different kind of way. That's on you, that's not on me. And so now the way that I see it is by keeping quiet all those years and not having the words, all the confidence to share my story. I suffered unnecessarily. I now have 2 children who are both girls, who are very, very vocal, and if I want them to be confident enough to stand in their truth and share their story, whatever that might look like later on, I've got to lead. I've got to show them how it's done. So a lot of my journey is around, okay, what kind of experiences do I want to stop with me, and what kind of experiences do I want to start with me? And so I'm making these choices, and I'm sharing my story. I'm not having any shame about it. I'm loving myself. I'm getting to know myself for me, but also for my daughters, because someone needs to show them how we do this, and who better than mummy?
Exactly. How did you get yourself to that point where you okay, so you know you had to, it's almost like stages you had to deal with, like dealing with the big boss of, you know, whoever it is that hurt you, and their perception of what they would how they would see your work, and then there's the rest of the world. Like how do you make that transition to or what is the process from like owning your story, really learning to detach from the guilt and the shame that is often attached, that we attach to our story, because that's another thing, this who's telling our story as well. Because we can end up having a more negative perception of what is actually the truth, and it probably isn't that bad. Or in a sense of okay, you know, this is what they're going to think of me once I put this out, but that's not actually the case.
It's almost like you're I can't never say it. It's like you're thinking the word catastrophizing, something like that. You get it.
Definitely.
What I found that has helped me, because I've been on a self-love journey for a few years, and at every point I feel like I'm at the best point ever, and at every point I realise there's still more work to do. But the biggest transformation came from really working on how I see myself and where that perspective comes from. because a lot of the thoughts I had about myself, particularly that I was dumb, that I was stupid, that I was, you know, didn't have a brain, wasn't worth listening to, that didn't come from me. That came from other people. And so I suppose it's about, I mean, when you're on a personal development journey anyway, you start becoming a little bit more analytical, you do reflect a lot more. So it's about looking at, okay, this idea that I have about myself, that no one's going to read anything I write, where did that come from? Where's the proof, first of all? Have I ever given anybody anything to read? No. Or if you have, would that person ever say anything nice about you anyway? No. And then also thinking about, are you people pleasing? Are you a people pleaser? I was a massive people pleaser. I want everyone to like me. Don't want to rock any boat. But again, I suffered. And in people pleasing everybody else, I wasn't pleased with myself. And ultimately, we are not responsible for making everybody else happy. That's not our job. We have to make ourselves happy, because then when we're in a position, when we make ourselves happy, we pour that energy and that time into ourselves, we're then in a better position to kind of evaluate the world around us. Me trying to make everyone else happy by, even, you know, I've shared like little snippets of stuff that I'd written when I was a teenager on Facebook, and had people message me and then block me, people that knew my mum. Do you know what I mean? Not because I've said anything horrible, I've just shared an excerpt, but because now people might be connecting the dots and think, oh, you're related to that. The way that they've responded is, okay, I'm going to block you. Then that doesn't remove the problem, that doesn't remove the trauma, it doesn't remove the impact. It just means that you can't handle my truth. And you know what, that's okay, because my truth's not for everybody, but it's for me. And it's about, I think as women, we're naturally selfless anyway, but it's about self-love. Let's be selfish. Let's just deal with the fact we're going to feel guilty about this. We're going to feel guilty about saying, you know what, I'm going to tell my story, even if it makes you look bad, because you know what, you acted in a way. So it's about making peace with this process. Is not going to be comfortable. The minute you start sharing your story, whether you do talks, go on radio, even if you write a blog, the minute you start putting it out there, you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And that's not coming from you. That's coming from the people that told you to be quiet about it, that told you no one's going to believe you. That's coming from them. If you make peace with the fact that this process is going to be uncomfortable, and you know that, you don't lie to yourself and say it's going to feel amazing, because it won't at first, and you might be like a good deal in and it still feels uncomfortable, but at least it's about picking your discomfort. What's more uncomfortable, telling your truth or living a lie?
And it's so real you saying that, because literally I'm having flashbacks to when I released my EP. And I remember having that same anxiety of you know, like this is what actually kept me this long from not actually speaking out about my abuse. This is a historic abuse case that happened when I was 11. I'm now 29. So it's like I've continually suppressed this. And even when I was making the decision to finally speak out about it, I'm still feeling like, oh, but like I still want to be able to I still want to be able to cover it. But what I ended up doing is making my story even more encrypted. I deliberately encrypted my story because of my anxiety of the comeback of what's gonna come back to me. And it's like, no, when you're putting out your story, like, be unapologetic about your story, like take off all of the boundaries. And I feel like that's what the next few years after that was my process of doing, how to do that properly, which is what actually steered my direction into what I'm doing now.
There you go. You go. I love that.
Everything is purposeful. But so for those that have been through traumatic experiences, I'm going to deal with this in two ways. Not everyone will probably want to be an author or published author. You know, you might want to like write some stuff and publish it to yourself where only you can read it, just be your own empowerment. But for those who may be interested in using writing as a form of healing for self and just for their own focused journaling sessions or things like that, what type of what process would you recommend to them? What type of prompts would you give them in terms of like what they can write in their journal? How would you advise them?
There's a few different things that you could look at, really. One thing I do recommend is addressing your inner child, is doing a visualization, imagining them on the seat opposite you, and thinking about how are they presenting. Are they sat up, confidently? Are they slouched? Are they jittery? Are they smiling? Are they sad? Do they look taken care of? What age are they? How old is your inner child? And just really connect with that, and then think about when you was that age, what did you need to hear? Because the fact that you can see them presenting in whatever way they're presenting tells us that they need a little bit of love, and they need it from you. And just write a letter. And then I say go one further, record yourself reading it out, and then when you feel awful, you play that, because those are your words, and you will feel the power of it. And it sounds so silly, and it sounds like, oh, it's just words, but you will be amazed at how you can speak to your own soul for your own words just when you need it. And at least then, if you've recorded it, you don't need to write that letter all the time. You just listen to your words.
Do you know what's interesting with you saying that? Is this is extremely important, and I'm having a lot of flashbacks in this talk with you. This is interesting, but for those who know, I did have a very, very traumatic experience. That was where I was erroneously sectioned for 7 weeks, and traumatized for those 7 weeks in the hospital, and it was the most intense experience I've ever been through in my life. And the only thing that I could do to be able to help myself in that moment, because there's something about that experience that really allowed me to come in tune with my inner child. And maybe this was because I was actually feeling the vibration of my own son. He wasn't born yet, but I literally conceived him the month after I came out. I was very in tune with his vibration, but it took me into myself, where I had to look at myself as a child and nurture myself. And I ended up, I didn't do writing because I didn't even have any writing tools until like later. I didn't have anything, didn't even have my phone. No, I had my phone until later. But what I would do is I would sing. I would sing very spontaneously. This is not a song that I've heard. This is just my heart cry that I would just sing out, and I would just allow my inner child to finally have a voice, but in song. And I remember one time I recorded it. I really hope I could actually find back this recording. But I had recorded it, and I used to listen back to it every single night, and that used to be healing for me. Like, just to be able to hear my own voice, the strength of my inner child, like being
it's soothing.
It
is. It's soothing because you know the words, and it's not until we connect with that we discover this and discover the power. And then there's another exercise I have where we look at the person that we're becoming. I usually my main audience is women, but let's say person. Okay, let's say visualize yourself in 5 years. What does that person look like? What's your life like? What do you have for lunch? What do you do every day? That's the you that you want to become. And think about, okay, that person in 5 years' time who you become believes in you now because they're there already. So at the end of every day before you go to bed, write a letter to that person and tell them about everything you did that day to get closer to where they are. And the beautiful thing about that is you realise actually how much time you're wasting on stuff that really doesn't matter. And you're like, not doing that tomorrow. But I suppose it's about connecting with yourself on different levels. You don't necessarily have to write what you ate today, but if you want to connect with, a part of you that still hurts and is triggered by a particular song, or someone said something and you can feel that you're upset about it, but you're not quite ready to talk about it, why not write to that part of you that needs those words, that needs that healing? It's beautiful. Sorry,
there's some craziness going on outside. I live in crazy areas.
but and do you know what, a good few years ago I used to journal a lot more than I do now. And you know, this was a time when I was very, like, my anxiety was ridiculous. I think I was losing it. It's a miracle that I didn't, because when I think about it now, it was very up and down. I was, yeah, not normal. But I'd write down everything that I was feeling, because at that point I hadn't learned yet to talk to people about it. I hadn't yet learned to let people in, so I was still writing loads. And then I was in the habit of, once I've written a journal entry, I don't read that back. I just move on. But then let's say a year later, you know, I've still got all my notebooks. Like, I will keep those forever, but I'll go through, and then I can see, like, oh, okay, that was what was going on for me right now. You learn so much from your past self. You can think, oh, okay, that's where I was at. And you realise then in that moment how much you've grown, because you can see it now. You know, so even if you know, if there's a particular song that's your theme song, my theme song right now is Truth Hurts by Lizzo. So that could be the theme song of my life, of this period of my life right now. So I'm going to write something that kind of carries that theme, and set my goals and affirm myself, and you know, and just love myself in my journal writing. Prompts don't have to be like a particular sentence or a quote or anything profound. It could just literally be you went outside and you saw a white feather in your path, and you feel like it was gifted to you by spirit because you was worried at the time, and it's a sign saying it's going to be okay. So you write about that. It's about looking for inspiration in life around you.
Yeah. What I sometimes do is that I find prompts in my free writing. So whenever I'm doing channel writing or automatic writing, whatever you like to call it, I would do that. And so, for example, I'd literally just be flowing through, and then I'll be saying how I'm feeling, and then I'll be like, why? That's a prompt that I've created in my stream of consciousness that will allow me.
I love that.
Yeah, that will allow me to kind of go off on another avenue and explore that area, but I'm constantly creating these different avenues for me to be able to explore.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't always have to be regimented, but, you know, it can just be free flow.
Yeah.
It's important for you to, journaling is extremely important. Like, not only are you holding yourself accountable to your emotions and your dreams and your goals and all of this these sorts of things, you're actually learning, as I said before, you're learning how to transfer energy. Like, everything is alchemy, everything is transformation. If you only have the feeling that's stuck in your body, what do you think that's going to do? It's going to create mental imbalances, emotional imbalances, physical imbalances, sicknesses, diseases.
It's also about holding space for yourself. And often we go through so much, and when we're not telling anybody about what we're going through, it's quite minimized in our heads. It feels bad, but it's like, yeah, you know, I'm getting on with this. But when you write it down and you read back what you're feeling, you see how much you're actually carrying. You can then afford to give yourself a little bit of compassion for all that you're carrying. It might be at that point that you realize, you know what, I need to get help for this. And it might not have been until you've written it down. You know, you probably didn't know the enormity of what you're going through right now, but you doing that is self-love. That is self-care in action, because you've given yourself a voice. Here it is. Now I can look at it for what it actually is. And you know what? This is a lot for one person to carry.
Yeah. What would you actually say to those that may write, and I know people that write a lot, but they may not feel comfortable to share, and they'll keep things locked in their journal? What would you kind of say to those people?
No, I think that's fine. I think all writing's not for everybody. If it's enough for you to write it and get it off your chest and lock that away and nobody else sees that, then that's fine. You do you. Not everybody wants to write a book. Not everybody wants to start a blog. But as long as, I think it's about you finding value enough in your words to know that these deserve to be written down. These deserve a space.
Yeah, I don't mean in terms of like those who want to like write actually for publicly, but I mean in terms of writing your feelings and being able to actually find someone to affirm that to.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's really important. Like, once you've written it down, sometimes you can still lock it in if you don't actually learn how to actually activate your throat chakra and verbalize how you actually feel. Like, that's the next step that you know, and it doesn't mean to say to share it to the world. But, you know, if you can just find one person, whether it be a therapist or whether it be a friend, whether it be, you know, someone that you feel that you can connect to. Me personally, I would feel like it would be in your interest to learn how to share. I don't know how you feel about that.
No. I feel like that's absolutely correct. I feel like you need to utilize the resources that are around you. And I know I say that and people might think, oh, I don't have any resources. You do. The fact that you're watching this now, you've got the internet, you can find groups, you can find local events and workshops. You know, I've put on workshops around people writing and sharing their story. I'm not the only person that will do that. You know, even if it's a case of you go on Facebook, if you see my post on Facebook and you think, you know what, I really connect with what she said. I get messages like that. And then you send me a message, just take a chance on yourself, because you never know what might come from a conversation. And sometimes people just want to share that with me. I've written this today. If I get enough of those messages, you know what, I'm putting on a workshop because let's come together. It's about be proactive, because we're not all mind readers. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the universe doesn't present us with what we're looking for until we know what we're looking for in the first place. So don't feel like you have to. You will feel like you have to keep it to yourself. You searching for somewhere to share this, even if it is that one person, it's going to feel very out of character, and again it's going to feel very uncomfortable. But make peace with that and take the action.
Yeah.
So
then what would you say to those that actually do have a dream of sharing their story to the world, and what process would you say for them to go through, even up until publishing as well, when you're ready to publish your book? Because I know you've got information about that. I forgot to actually mention that you are actually a writing coach, a creative writing coach as well. So you do actually assist people through this process on a very real level. I was
just about to say, first thing, book yourself a clarity chat with me. It's free for 20 minutes. Change your life. But
definitely.
I mean, jokes aside, I think it does help to bounce your ideas off someone. And it's even better when it's someone who is not necessarily related to you, doesn't know your story, and they can offer that impartial opinion and advice and guidance. What I find is people come to me with a bit of an idea. They're not sure if anyone's going to read it. They may have even started a bit, but they don't think they can write, but they feel enough to kind of have a chat. And so we explore it. What does this look like? What are the possibilities? And people tend to come away feeling like ideas are risen around because of all the possibilities. Because when we think about, I'm going to sit down and write a book, to sit down at your laptop or your notepad and write a book for the next 8 hours can feel very overwhelming. It's about knowing that you can take your time. Your first draft is going to be terrible, full of spelling errors, grammar mistakes, the whole lot. And that's what it's supposed to look like, you know, get the idea out. One thing have been saying to people that I've been working with more recently is think about the book that you want to write. You know, even if you're not massively confident yet or not solid on the idea, if I was to go into Waterstones, where am I going to find it? Go to that shelf. What other books are sitting amongst it? Kind of gives you an idea about what the market has right now, but also what it's missing. And you know, people have even said to me like, oh, you know, I was gonna write this book, but someone else had the same idea, but you know what, that you didn't write that book, so it's not your perspective and the world hasn't seen it yet, and you know what, we really want to experience it, so write that book. And my role as a coach really is kind of getting you to just have a bit of confidence in yourself and your capabilities, because ultimately, you know, I would hate it if you'd always had this dream to write a book and you never tried. And you get to 18 and you think, you know what, I should have written that book when I was 25. Wow. Do you know what I mean?
This part is starting it as well. Like, you're like blank mode, like, okay, I want to write a book, but how the hell do I write it?
And so many people say that, they're like, I have an idea, but I don't know where to start. You know what I mean? And I totally get that. So what I support people through is like just exploring their idea, but also planning. Okay, how can we make this happen? Let's look at your weekly routine, a typical week in the life of you. Let's be realistic. You don't have a time every single day to sit down for an hour. But what if Tuesday evenings was your time? You know, okay, let's have it like that. How about you message me to let me know that you're writing, because accountability. And if I don't get a message, I'm gonna come looking for you. So, aren't you writing today? It's things like that, and it's different for everybody. Everybody has different needs, and really my role is to kind of understand you as a person, your passion, understand what's going on for your life, and figure out, okay, how can we get you moving forward?
There's something that I could recommend as well, actually creating a dream calendar, which is
Ooh.
where you literally, so say how you were saying, you know, Tuesday may be your day to do this. What what I like to do, and what I started doing from the beginning of this year, is like dedicating specific days to certain areas of my dream, no matter how small or how big it is.
Love that.
Because at the end of the day, what often holds us back is us being able to water that seed. You know, we let the seed just wither and die because we're not constantly actually watering it. So if you kind of look at it in or compartmentalize it and just put it into little sections, like it may seem, I'm a Gemini, so I can multitask, and I know about you Geminis. I thrive in that, and you know, like it's amazing for me to kind of be doing loads of different things at once, but because it kind of gives me that versatility. But making sure that I've got a calendar of, almost like when you do like a content calendar, like you're aware of what you're doing at what time on what day, and you're creating a commitment to your dream, because it's no point, you know, a lot of us, we don't like the feeling of when we're not in tune with our dreams and fulfilling our achievements and our goals. So what we're going to do about it, like actually find a way where we can actually be in alignment with it and not put it at the back of our minds. Like our passions shouldn't be at the back of our mind. Sorry, go ahead.
What I like about that is that it's about realizing that you can achieve this, but in stages. You don't have to be working on everything at once. You can just do a little bit today. Today we're, you know, maybe this week you're focusing on the themes of your book. So Monday you're looking at I don't know, divorce and separation. Tuesday you're looking at new beginnings, new chapters. When you do that, because in our days today, sometimes if we sit there at a blank screen thinking of an idea, we're going to be sat there at a blank screen for a couple of hours. But if you've given yourself a bit of a head start because you've planned ahead and you've said, this is what we're looking at today, all you've got to do is just put the words onto paper. And that sounds like dead easy, you know, it's not always that simple, but at least then you've saved yourself that headache of thinking, oh, what should I write about? Should I write about this? Should I write about that? You can just go with it. You've created that head start for yourself.
Definitely. No, I really appreciate that, and I really encourage everyone who's actually watching. I know that I think it's Jasmine. Jasmine's writing as well. I think she has she said it's a huge dream of hers to be able to you know, publish something. So there are people on here that do have their dreams, and I really would encourage you to make sure that you take steps towards it. Like don't procrastinate, don't leave it till tomorrow, don't leave it till next week, don't leave it till next year.
Today's a good time to start, you know. Today's wonderful. Now.
Like hold yourself accountable to really achieving what you want to achieve, because if you don't do that, it's never going to happen. And that's something I had to learn, because a lot of the time we feel like there's going to be some crazy spark of lightning that will just give us everything that we need, and
that would be amazing, but it doesn't happen like that.
I actually wrote my book in 6 days, but I digress.
You are showing off.
But it doesn't always happen like that, and there's still other books that I'm still taking ages to be able to do that. So it's like, you know, sometimes you'll have the creativity and you'll be able to channel it out in one way, and I love to be able to do that. Sometimes I could just block out a few days and be like, right, I'm just going to channel and like just get everything out, because I know that if I leave it, I'll just drag it out and just make it some long process and probably not finish it.
You know what's key about what you've just said there is that you know your process. You're now able to implement that change. And so really, when you're writing, it's not just that you're writing a story right now. You have to know your process, and your process may be different from yours, from mine, from your friend next door. You have to know what your process is. So for some people, they can get up an hour early before work, and start writing. There are other people who are up late, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when their brain comes alive. And I
Yeah.
suppose it's about knowing how you work. And if you don't know how you work, that's cool. Then this is fun for you. Then you can figure it out. You can try a few different things and see what comes for you.
Yeah, and I would even say, especially to mothers, because a lot of the time we can make a lot of excuses and be like, oh, I don't have the time because of the children. I know someone, and she's an amazing, amazing writer, and I was working with her on another project that I'm really hoping I can really get off the ground. But she has a child, and she gets up like 2 hours earlier than her child to make sure that she can actually use that time to write. And we just have to make the sacrifices, and it's a lot. Trust me, it is not easy. Like, sometimes it feels like you're burning the candle at both ends, but it's also learning about where to put the balance too. But it's just knowing that nothing can happen without sacrifice, without hard work. And when you get on the other side of that, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like, do you know what? I'm so proud of myself. Like, even just doing the academy, that in itself is an achievement. I'm a mother to a 1-year-old that is very, very demanding at times, but I'm still able to do what I need to do and just make sure that I'm just working around it. Like,
make it happen.
Yeah, there's no denials in this, and I don't. And even though certain things may be delayed, that's still not a denial in itself. And that's something that we need to remind ourselves, that it may take us a little bit longer, but doesn't mean to say that we're not going to get to where we need to get to.
And what I also say is, don't aim for perfection. We're not trying to be perfect. We're not trying to get to the bottom of the laundry basket. That's impossible. We're not trying to keep the house tidy. Sometimes you're going to have to make peace with, am I going to let the kids go wild while I have half an hour to do this? The washing up can wait while I have half an hour. The washing up's going to be there for you tomorrow morning. It's not going anywhere. You can write right now. And it's about making those choices for the greater good. It's, sometimes I used to lie to myself. I used to say, I'm only going to write for 10 minutes. I'll be there a whole hour later. So it's, trick yourself if you must. And just, what, I went to a TEDx event a couple of years ago, and there was a guy there, I can't remember his name, but what he said was, in the first instance, you're not going to want to do it. You just got to get past that. The first 5 minutes, you just got to get past that. And it stayed with me because, even if you really, really want to write a book, you might not want to write right now. You probably know that you should. You probably feel that you should. But actually, you can't be bothered to get started. And sometimes the getting started bit, that's the hardest. Once you get past that, you're there for a couple of hours. You're writing 2 chapters.
Yeah.
As long as it's about looking at it and being realistic. You're not always going to feel massively motivated. You're not always going to feel massively inspired. But if you set time aside to write, and this is your dream, just accept for the first 5 minutes, you're not going to want to do it. You're probably going to tell yourself unkind things. You're probably going to have negative thoughts. You're going to try and talk yourself out of it. Ego is going to try and talk you out of it. But you know what? Soul wants this to happen. So you push through. You push through, and then you'll start feeling, the euphoria that we get when we're really on a roll and we're connecting with our words and we're finally getting all these ideas out and getting new ideas in, because you've chosen to push past ego. You've chosen to push past self-sabotage. You've chosen to give your voice a place. And
and there's something key that you just mentioned, and it was in regards to household chores and almost having to pick your battles. And that's something I had to learn, like, probably about February times, because it was getting too much, because I'd literally get up in the morning, you're trying to clean, you're trying to do this, trying to sort out the baby. By the time you've done all of that, you're tired and it's time to go to bed. And all of the time that you needed to use on what you needed to do, it's no longer there. So I've literally had to get to my point where I'm like, I'm picking my battles. I do not see the sink right now. I do not see the floor. Let me just make sure I can get this done, and then I can sort that out. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, really, really pick your battles, because it's a lot, and it's very, very draining. And and it's this is why we need the village around us. Like, the village is so necessary, because like becoming a mother, I'm realizing how necessary it is. It's not easy at all, because you know, oftentimes it can you'll like, obviously my partner's there, but they're working full time, so you're there majority of the time, still trying to do everything you need to be doing, but you know, your child still needs to be looked after. So it's
being
like,
a mum I know this is going to lead to a whole other conversation, so we should put that in, but being a mum is the most challenging thing you will ever do, the hardest thing you will ever do, because not only do you now have this little human to raise, you've changed. You've changed, you're trying to deal with that. You've had a baby, you think everything you're doing is wrong, health visitors are making you feel like you're wrong, and you're trying to write a book. Madness. But this is why we do need our village, because women we can rally around, you know, especially if you are a parent and you know you perhaps you've got young children and you want to make time to write. Your village is helpful for that, because it might be that you know another parent who wants time to do a garden but she can't. So you know what, I'll have your kids on a Thursday morning for 2 hours and you have mine on a Tuesday morning for 2 hours. Beautiful. And we need it, but that's how we get stuff done. That is how we get stuff done. The amount of times I've done that as well with friends, it's beautiful, because we get it. We're not judging each other, we get it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's going to be a whole other conversation, isn't it?
I know. I definitely want to do that conversation, actually do that as another live. I'm going to put that as another topic. And I feel like I want to have a panel discussion of this, and probably bring in a lot of different entrepreneur mothers, and just being able to explore our experiences, because I don't feel that's often, you know, really highlighted on a panel discussion in itself. The difficulties that it is, you just often see a lot of people just doing it. You know, it's like, how do you do it?
And we are doing it, and we don't know how we're doing it. We just know baby needs to be fed, washing's done, need to hang it out, food shopping. We are on the go. We don't ever really stop to think about how we're managing all of this. This is why I think women are so amazing, and we could, you know, we hold space for our partners, for our family members, for our friends, and a lot of the time we're struggling as well. We, you know, we take care of everyone and everything, and a lot of it is nature, a lot of it is nurture. We are incredible.
Extremely.
But that's you know the truth.
We'll definitely set up that other live. Let me know below if you'd like to see that live as well, and if there's any other mothers that would like to jump on this topic, because I think it's definitely something we do need to address. But in closing, what is your closing words that you would give? We didn't get onto publishing, just to cover publishing quickly before we kind of do our little closing. So what advice would you give to those that want to publish? Because I remember I came to you and I was like, what is better, self-publishing or, you know, being getting published by an actual reputable company?
I would say the beauty of the publishing industry now is that it's just so accessible for all of us. So if you wanted right now to self-publish a book, you can just upload a Word document, press publish. It really is that easy. It doesn't have to cost anything. The thing that you have to think about is that there are different ways that you can do this, and there are also pockets in the publishing industry where naive writers are taken advantage of. So you get what's called vanity publishers. These are people that say, we can publish your book, self-publish with us, just give us $5,000 and all your rights, and you're signing a contract. You might get 50 copies of your book and you have to pay a renewal every year. True story, someone's told me that. They pry on people who don't know any better. Then you get what I would call assisted self-publishing companies. A fantastic company is Conscious Streams Publishing by Daniela Bleckner, good friend of mine. But she acts with integrity anyway. You will pay her for a service. You will pay her for formatting, editing, graphic design, all that stuff. But you own your rights. Okay, those rights are yours. She doesn't take any royalties. Those are yours. So that I like, because I can knowingly say to people, okay, if you're not quite confident enough to do the self-publishing by yourself, you're not ready to go through traditional publishing, go to Conscious Streams Publishing, because I know for a fact they will look after you.
Yeah.
With traditional publishing, which is every writer's dream, we all want that writing contract. It works a bit differently now. It's really hard to get published traditionally. You could have the next Harry Potter book. It doesn't matter if they've got 500 submissions this month. It's really hard for you to get in. The thing with self-publishing is because everybody can do it, everybody does do it, which means there's a standard that is often missed that you can get definitely with traditional publishing. I've self-published all my books. However, moving forward, I'm going to go the traditional route because I feel like my writing's good enough, and why not strive for excellence? Why just stay comfortable? Why not make myself uncomfortable? Whichever you do choose to do, whether you self-publish or you traditionally publish, it is expected now that you do your own marketing, or you do a great deal of it. Years ago, it used to be that you'd go the traditional route, you get a literary agent, you get a publishing house, and there'd be a budget for marketing. Times have changed now, hon. We've got social media, we've got our own personal brands. So, if you are thinking about writing a book, or it's worth thinking, it's worth starting building up your brand now. Creating a bit of a presence, building up a bit of momentum. I'm just reading some of the comments on my other screen.
Yeah, I just saw a question come up.
In the UK, the minute you write something, you have publishing. You can do the poor man's copyright, which is you print off your document, you put it in an envelope, you mail it to yourself, you don't open it. Another way that you can prove that you've got copyright to your, it's the date that you created the file on your laptop. So you've got that.
Oh yeah, because there's more digital publishing stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look on, I can't speak for other countries, but if you look on the .gov.uk website, you'll have something there around copyright and intellectual property. Some people choose to trademark their stuff, but I know for a fact that from you write your chapter now, you own that, and you have grounds to sue if somebody else takes that.
Same with music as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if you are looking to write a book, there's a really good organisation that you can sign up to called Society of Authors. You can sign up to that even if you're not yet an author. You have to pay an annual fee. They discuss you at a panel, but then you get free legal support. You get, they'll look over your contracts for you. They're there for you. You'll get discounted public liability insurance. It's beneficial to you. Think of it as a union but for writers, and it's about having that backup, because we're not all going to know everything. There's loads that I don't know, but at least I know where I'm going to go if I have questions to ask. So there are things like that there to protect you.
Yeah. And just to let you guys know, this is one of her books that she's got out. It's called What's Your Story? And this, I guess, is a little template for you to learn how to begin to write your story in blogs as well, isn't it?
Yeah. This book was actually going to be like an online course.
Oh.
and then I just thought, I just felt that it would be a better experience if in a book, because not everyone has not everyone's digital savvy. They're really not. And the idea of it is not necessarily for to teach you writing. It's just to get you writing. If you've ever thought about it, there's a few prompts in there, there's a bit of information, there's guidance, there's writing exercises just to start the process. And ultimately it's about finding the story in your personal story. So while yes, I can talk about let's create a fictional character and a fictional story, it's about how you can connect with your own story and finding the value in that. It's not a complete guide. There's always more stuff we can talk about in writing your own story and connecting with things. But
so the colour matches my tapestry.
It's meant to be. Look at that.
I didn't even realise. Thank you for that, Jasmine. I love it.
Divine connection and all them things. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. So if you can just let us know where we can find you, where they can find this awesome book as well, and any of your services.
Okay, you can literally, I'm trying to read what everyone's it's so good how you do that. So my book is on Amazon. You can type in my name on Amazon, it'll come up. I have got a website, which is annikaspalding.co.uk. Again, you can type my name into Google. It will literally, I'm on everything, it will come up. And on there, you'll find information about how I work, how much it costs, but also get a sense of who I am. I am on Instagram. It's my favourite social media network ever. Sorry, Facebook, but you know, Instagram is the one. And I say this really because if we are ever to work with anybody and part money, because you know money is energy as well, we're having that transaction, I feel like you have to feel like you connect with someone. And for me, I feel like if I'm going to be supporting you in writing a book, I want you to feel like you're safe with me and that we'll get on and that we gel, which is why I offer the free chat up front anyway, because you know on paper it might look fine but we might clash, and then I don't want you to feel like that. So get a sense of who I am and what I'm about, and yeah, just drop me a message and we can take it from there.
Beautiful. So I just want to thank you for just everything today. This was a beautiful live, and I feel like there's a lot of exploration that was happening with me as well with all of this
just like this conversation can never end, like we're always going to find something to chat about, so you know maybe I can
Gemini energy.
You know what, right, my Lilith is in Gemini, so this makes total sense now. And I get on well with Virgos. I'm a Libra on the Scorpio cluster. I get on well with Virgos and Scorpios.
Scorpio moon here, and Scorpio, right? I'm a Scorpio dominant, so
there you go. It was written in the stars.
And your greatest power is learning how to write and express your story and express your emotions and your feelings. So you are literally just a demonstration of learning to take your Lilith and make it your power, and take your dark self and make it your power. It's not dark, it's not bad. It's
all day long
aspects of yourself. But we don't actually learn to really integrate into these parts of ourselves. It's, you know, you said that you was afraid of this part of yourself. You was very shy. So learning how to integrate that into your light and learning that that's actually your greatest power, and that's what's actually created your foundation. You've gone to study this, you've gone to do all of these different things. So it's beautiful. So let this be an encouragement to everyone else, especially those that want to begin to start their writing journey. And even if it's not just writing, if you're a musician or whatever it is that you're setting yourself to do, whether you're setting a business or whatever, just go for it. Go for it and learn how to use the power of the pen. Yeah. So again, I thank everyone for joining into the live today, and to anyone who's going to catch this back on the live stream, remember you can always find me at www.soul-reconnection.com, and we still have the intuitive chakra healing course running at the moment. We're going on to the solar plexus on Thursday, so it's amazing energies, and we're learning how to power up. So yeah.
Can I just put one thing?
Yeah.
I've got a creative writing course for beginners. That's a digital course.
Yeah.
And you can access that via my website. I think it's like 30 quid. It's awesome. It really is.
Worth it.
Yeah. My whole degree wasn't 30 quid, so you're getting quite a bargain, to be fair.
Exactly.
But then, you know, at the same time, you know, this is a course in a book and it's like $9.99 on Amazon. So depending on what the budget is, there's resources available to you.
Definitely. So definitely, guys, please go out and support. Please go out and check out the book that she's got on Amazon. Check out her website, check out everything, and just let's stay in this supporting and loving energy. And so until next time, I will catch you guys soon.